Definitely a positive addition to the action. And we're back at the mystery card game here, brought to you by GG Poker. Linus, the hand that we're going to black out here. He's in the straddle. Handz with a couple of aces. Makes it 10 to go. Elton set mining with sixes.
So Linus with the straddle squeezes the 50K into Handz.
In this episode of Weekly Hand from the Triton Cash Game Invitational, where only one Super Pro is allowed at the table, we have Handz raising up to $10,000, playing effectively about $360,000 deep at $1,000, $2,000, $4,000 with the ace and the ace. Pretty good hand. Over on to Elton Sang in the small line of pocket sixes. That's a great hand to call and set mine. And then Linus Loeliger, Linus Love, world-class online player, says, bump it up to 50,000 with a mystery hand. What do you think he has? Probably not pocket aces. Back around to Handz with the aces. Let's see what he does.
Call.
Slow playing it.
Yeah, he is. And by the way, Elton, I think he's very much in the mood to set mine, get lucky, play big pots.
They're also very deep, and he's closing the action, and he's got position. You're
Yep.
right.
Handz decides to slow play the pocket aces. Tricky in the spot when you have to decide whether or not to slow play your pocket aces. You essentially want to find yourself in a spot where the stack to pot ratio is not all that deep going to the flop, which in this scenario, it won't be, because if Handz calls and Elton folds, which is often what will happen, you will end up being in position, heads up, with about $317,000 remaining in the stack, with the pot being about $113,000. So it's about a 3-to-1 stack to pot ratio, which will be a scenario where it's very easy to get the money in by the river, which is great. There are a few problems here, though. The first is that Elton is yet to act. If he has any sort of pair or good suited connector, he's going to call, and that's going to suck away some amount of equity from Handz' pocket aces. You're going to find aces starts to diminish in value as more and more people see the flop. Also, you have to consider what Linus's 3-betting range looks like in this particular game. I'm sure he knows good, strong GTO strategy that is mostly 3-betting a good, strong linear range plus some bluffs in this scenario. But maybe he's not bluffing so often. If he's not bluffing so often, that's going to skew his range towards kings, queens, jacks, ace, king, stuff like that, in which case you'd rather click it back, or maybe even rip it all in, and try to stack Linus immediately. Because you don't really want to call and let ace-king see a flop 2 or 3 ways that doesn't contain an ace or a king, right? Or if he has queens, you really don't want an ace or a king to come, because then maybe you don't get paid. That said, I do think Linus enjoys a good bluff, so that should really make you consider calling, right? Because you want to keep all of his bluffs in. If he does have, well, anything that's not premium, you certainly don't mind letting him see the flop, because he's going to continuation bet very often and you're going to get more money out of him. Or he just decides to bluff it off, which would be amazing. So this is a tricky spot, but I do like Handz' call in this situation, especially given Elton's going to be out of position as well in this spot. If Elton was going to be in position, I'd probably click it back a little bit more often to something like 100,000 or just rip it in. But I think calling is fine in this spot. Elton calls too with his sixes, praying for another one. Let's go to the flop.
Over 150 in the middle. Queen, Jack, 5 board. Handz with the overpair.
So I'm not sure what line is squeezed with, but Queen Jack 5 texture. I would actually expect queens to 4-bet him a lot, so he doesn't worry about that much. If he c-bets,
Oh,
yeah.
what size does he come with here? 40,000, sub 1/3 pot.
The flop comes queen of spades, jack of hearts, 5 of diamonds. Not a particularly good flop for aces, because if you consider a logical 3-betting range from Linus, it's going to contain queens and jacks. And for all we know, queen jack suited, or maybe queen jack offsuit even. So that's not great. That said, Handz has aces. Elton checks his pocket sixes. He's done with it. Linus goes for a small bet, 40,000 into 153,000. What I want to know is, what do you think Handz should do in this situation? Take a second, think about it, and let me know in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, click the like and subscribe button for me.
So Handz shouldn't ever be raising, I would think. Sure, it's a small bet, but he still has Elton behind. And to raise on Queen Jack 5 Rainbow is just very rare, as you don't really represent that many bluffs so much. It feels like call's the play.
So, Handz, flatting.
Elton?
No way.
No, you can't be raising sixes, can you? Okay. He had me scared for a second.
This is a tough spot. I think as you are more and more aware that you're just really not trying to fold this hand, I think calling is ideal, because every once in a while, if you call, Elton will wake up and come to life with maybe his pocket queens, jacks, or fives, or queen jack, put in a raise. Linus will then put in his money if he somehow has a really good hand, and you can find a way to get out of the way with your pocket aces. Not that you're trying to fold aces, but that will happen sometimes. Also, a really huge benefit of calling is it forces Linus to stay in the pot with all his potential bluffs, like some ace-x suited, king-x suited, some junky suited connectors, etc. So again, given once Handz calls, the pot's going to go up to 230,000 or so, and Linus only has 277 remaining, this is a pretty good spot to call, which Handz does. Elton gets out the way. Let's go to the turn.
I might have bolted right out of the booth and into the sea.
Wow, that might be one of the worst cards for Handz.
I mean, he blocks ace-king.
Sure, but it's still there a little bit.
Blockers have gotten many a person in trouble throughout the years.
Yeah. You know, the thing is, if I'm Linus here, if I was bluffing, this is the turn card to continue to fire, and fire once again on the river. Also, if Linus himself was holding like aces, kings, king, queen, ace, queen, they would want to slow down a lot on the turn.
But that's not what's happening, as Linus actually speeds up. 75,000 now.
It's about a third pot.
Turn just got a whole lot worse for Handz because it's a 10. You may say, why is it worse? Well, now, if Linus randomly bet pocket tens, you lose. If he had ace-king, you lose. If he had king-9, either suited or offsuit, that's getting frisky pre-flop, you lose. And if he had 9-8 suited, you lose. As well as queen-jack offsuit still, queen-10 offsuit, jack-10 offsuit, sets. This is not good. This is getting worse. Linus goes for a $75,000 bet into the $230,000 pot. Handz again has to figure out what to do in this spot. Let's see what he does.
I mean, the other thing is that Handz, obviously, if he is beaten, he can find a king for the nuts.
Yes, for cleanouts.
The ace isn't always going to be good. Maybe there's some king, king, king X that would be out there, but the problem is aces beat those hands. You know, we're focusing on the stuff that we fall to at present, and as played, I suppose there is some pocket queens, pocket jacks for Linus.
Of course, it's very possible Linus can have queens, jacks, even like top two. Ace king. Linus's bluffs tend to contain what, ace 5 suited, king 10, ace 10. I think these hands would bluff. Yeah, He can't fold just because aces is just too strong. Price is good, and he's got the clean outs, like you say, to king.
Facing this small bet, I do not think Handz can fold. This is a really annoying scenario, especially since you block some ace-x suited bluffs that may want to play in this manner. I mean, look, in this spot, you always want to consider which hands will logically bluff. The nice thing about this spot is that he is against Linus Love, who's one of the best, good, strong, world-class GTO players in the world, who probably understands his range far better than any other human in the world, and will bluff adequately. Maybe. Maybe he's exploiting and he only has the nuts. I don't know what's happening when he goes this size. He goes small, though, getting good odds, in position, closing the action. I would see the turn with aces. I would see the river with aces, too.
Oh, that's a great river card for Handz, just in case he was up against Queen Jack that squeezed.
Yeah, all of the Broadway combo 2 pairs fall now to our hand, but with 383,000 in the middle and 202 back.
I actually can't see a world where Linus doesn't jam this river, whether it's value or bluff. Like, if he's betting this turn, it's usually not just to let go.
All in.
Oh, he jams. And this has just gotten deeply uncomfortable for Handz, Randy.
The river is a doozy. The 5 of spades pairing the board. Could it get any worse? Now he loses to random ace-5 and king-5 suited if somehow Linus had those. Linus goes all in for about half pot. Handz needs to win about 25-ish% of the time or more to profit in this scenario. You want another question? Sure, let's do it. In the spot, do you think Handz should call or fold? Don't peek ahead. Go to the comment section down below and let me know.
Yeah, it's not good. In terms of hands he beats, it's like I mentioned, king 10, ace 10, but he blocks a little bit of those bluffs. Queens and jacks is very worrisome hands he could be up against. Also, like the bluffs, ace 5, he's got 2 aces in hand. He blocks that a bit, right? Like, this is not not good.
You're talking about the pre-flop bluffs with the
Yeah.
ace 5, because obviously we fall to ace 5 now.
Yeah, exactly. True. Disgusting.
What would you do, chat? As played, staring across the way at Linus Love, all in for over $200,000. And you've got aces and 5s. Sometimes we get in our own head a little bit too, Randy.
I've got aces.
We slow played it pre, you know. Maybe we didn't define our hand adequately. Not a critique, by the way, of hands, but just we could have potentially avoided this murk or this line from Linus. You think he finds the call? I'm not asking whether or not you think it's good.
I understand. I think he does.
Boy, the
But
5 is such a tempter.
I know. Like, that really...
But how much queen jack, jack 10, queen 10 do we ever really think?
I don't think there's mini jack 10. I think queen jack is a little
Specifically?
bit, but like, what if I'm up against kings? Is my opponent playing kings this way? That would be a disaster to fold against. I don't know. I don't think so, but...
Isn't there really just 2 combinations of queen jack that would make sense, and that would be clubs and diamonds, specifically?
Yeah.
Because offsuit variety doesn't feel like
I don't
it's...
think offsuit variety squeezes. You're right. Ace king you gotta worry about. I know, yes, he blocks that a little bit, but it still exists. Queens, jacks.
Well, as Handz works his way through this one, he's utilizing several time banks. That said, at the end of this second frame, we will refill those time banks.
This is a rough spot for pocket aces because ace 5 suited and king 5 suited and 6-5 suited just made trips, which maybe logical hands that Linus would continue bluffing on the turn. But also, Queen Jack, Queen 10, and Jack 10 just got a whole lot worse. And maybe Linus value shoves those, given he only has half pot on the river. Gross spots. I think in this scenario, as Linus has more King 9s and 9-8s, you should be very, 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 very inclined to fold. If he has no King 9 offsuits, no 9-8 offsuits, and maybe not even the suited ones, you don't actually lose to a whole lot here. Only sets plus a few random 5s. So in that scenario, I think you have a pretty easy call. But as Linus is getting really, really after it and has more and more straights in his range, you got to be inclined to fold. Gross spot. Let's see if Handz can make the right play.
Oh, man.
It feels like he wants to pitch it.
Yeah, of course he wants to pitch it because the hand feels like a stone bluff catcher and nothing better in spite of the fact that it's aces up.
No flush draw was ever present.
That's a great point.
It makes you want to fold more.
And he does lay it down, and look at this. Linus, gut shot on the turn. Not the type that we anticipated, but when ace-king is blocked, king 9 ends up being the one.
Handz burns a million time banks and then folds. And he is rewarded by getting to save $200,000 in his stack because he was against the king 9 of spades. Nice save by Handz. I'll talk to all of you next time.